Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to the Black Financial Channel. So, today on the Black Financial Channel, I decided that I wanted to share some deep dives I just did on Spotify. And I was really curious about Joe Rogan and the impact that Joe Rogan's presence has had on Spotify and whether or not Spotify is a good investment. So, I'm going to break down Spotify, some of their pros and cons, some of the challenges, and talk generally about that whole industry of content creation and streaming and all that. And so get comfortable, buckle up seatbelt. We're going to get started on the Black Financial Channel right now. Good morning. Welcome to the Black Financial Channel. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm your friendly neighborhood finance professor. On the Black Financial Channel, I talk about Black wealth and Black economics every single day, sometimes as much as 10 times a day under one condition. The condition is that we are Black first. Black first means we put our community at the top of our priority list. Black first means we educate our kids. Black first means we break generational curses. We do not continue them. Black first also means we make sure our children are ready for the future economically. If you agree with this philosophy, put a hashtag B and the number one in the chat, hashtag B1. Shout out your city. Let me know what city you're from. And I see Emmanuel and C-Dub and El Haj and everybody on Instagram. How you doing on Instagram? I'm not going to be on Instagram more than a couple of minutes because I actually need, you guys are on my phone, by the way, and I need my phone in order to read some of the research that I did on Spotify. So if you want to actually finish the conversation and hang out with us, just hit the link in the bio and you can join the Black Financial Channel in the bio or go to theblackfinancialchannel.com. That's theblackfinancialchannel.com. All right, so Spotify. How many of you have a Spotify subscription? Give me a yes or no if you subscribe to Spotify. Spotify was really on my mind, particularly the stock, because I was thinking about investing in the stock. I have some different investments that I make. I talk to my students in a lot of detail about a lot of this stuff during our stock market class. So if you'd like to actually join us, feel free to just go to boycewatkins.com and do a 1 month trial. You can do a free trial. It doesn't cost you anything for the first month. And so with Spotify, I'm a subscriber. You know, I'm a premium subscriber. I pay Spotify money every month, so I don't have to listen to commercials, and I can download the songs and the podcasts, so I can listen to them when I'm on an airplane and stuff like that. And it's convenient. You know, I like the way you can just look up an artist and you can find the music and all that. And the podcasts are pretty good too. And I was thinking about Spotify because I was thinking about making a bigger investment in Spotify. And I said, let me just kind of look into this because the thing is that Spotify stock has plummeted. I mean, it's gone down maybe I want to say 63% in the last year. So a lot of red. If you were to look up Spotify stock, and I'm going to try to pull it up and show you on the screen sort of what it looks like. And now here's the thing, right? So a stock. One thing that people don't understand about investing is that a good company is not always a good stock, and a bad company is not always a bad stock. Some people will say, "Oh, that's a great company. I want to buy their stock." Yeah, but if the price is too high, it's not a good investment. Like even Apple has been a bad stock on many occasions because Apple, even though we know they know how to make money hand over fist, that doesn't mean that it's a good company for you to own. That doesn't mean that it's a good time for you to buy that stock. So when a stock price drops, and the company still has a solid enough business model that you know they're not going to go bankrupt, that they're going to be around, long enough, to survive. That could mean that a bad stock suddenly became a good stock. So you can look here and you can see on the screen. And if you're on Instagram, you can't see it. Just go to theblackfinancialchannel.com or hit the link in the bio. You can see it on YouTube. You can see there's a lot of blood red. Spotify's dropped by about 63% in the last year, and that's not uncommon. I mean, right now you're in a bloody market, and there's a lot of cheap companies that you can buy. I'm personally buying tons of stock right now. I'm a net buyer, but over time I'm a net buyer of stocks, mainly because historically stocks have always gone up. Stocks are like real estate. You don't expect real estate prices to go down. You don't buy a house expecting that the value is going to be less 20 years from now than it is now. You name me. There aren't too many neighborhoods out here. Maybe my grandmother's old neighborhood might be in this category, but there aren't too many places you can go where you can buy real estate now and 20 years later have the price be lower than what it was when you first bought it. That's why when people say, well, is this a good time to buy real estate? I say, well, really now is always a good time to buy because the price is typically on its way up. So anyway, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. I'm gonna do some of my deep dive on Spotify, and then toward the end of the video, I'll tell you guys my verdict, the Dr. Boyce verdict in terms of whether or not I think Spotify would be a good investment or not. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a guy named Joe Rogan, who is a massive investment for Spotify. And he is, I think they put $100 million into his podcast. They also spent tens of millions of dollars on exclusive rights to podcasts from people like Michelle and Barack Obama and some other people, and Amy Schumer, and they learned a few things about content creation. And these are things I kind of understood because I've been a content creator for a long time. For example, with Amy Schumer, Spotify learned that it's better to buy somebody's audience and bring them over than it is to try to get a celebrity and hope that celebrity builds an audience. And I already knew that. I already knew that. We had put together a platform for Black women called Fly Nubian Queen. And we had actually done a deal with Miguel Nunez, Juana Man. You remember Juana Man? And he's funny, he's smart. I said, okay, maybe this guy is going to end up, bringing in a different audience. And it didn't work out. It didn't work because, our people didn't really care much about who he was. They kind of knew, but it wasn't a big deal. And also, it wasn't as if all the people around the world who knew him knew to come to that platform to hear him. So what's easier is when you have people that have a deep connection to their audience and they can bring them over. So Spotify learned that too. They created an Amy Schumer podcast. It didn't do very well, but they bought podcasts like Joe Budden, and he brought his audience over, and then boom, he ended up doing okay. And so as a content creator, I can definitely tell you that having an audience does matter, and we've spent a lot of years building up our audience and hanging out with you guys. And you guys see me in here every day. I don't play. I don't take days off because I love to connect with you, hang out with you, teach you. My PhD is your PhD. And and it's and so as a result, on Instagram we've got about 500,000 on different platforms. On YouTube we got over 1 million. On Facebook we have about 3 or 4 million, and that doesn't happen overnight. A lot of people think that it's just about how much talent you have or how interesting you are or how famous you are or whatever, like, oh, I'm a lawyer or I'm a doctor, so I can just replicate what you've got going on. I've run into that all the time. And I'm like, oh, you have no idea how much blood, sweat, and tears it takes, how much commitment it takes to really build a solid platform. In fact, I had a friend who was a professor just like me. She had a PhD. And I asked her to come in and teach a class in the Black Business School. So she came in, we paid her good. We paid her more money than her university paid her to teach one class. And it only took maybe a couple hours a month. And so after a while, she comes to me and she says, well, I want you to know, Dr. Boyce, I'm going to create my own version of the Black Business School. And I'm like, oh, you are? Okay. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not hating. I mean, I don't have any problem with people creating their own stuff. But I said, are you sure you understand how much work it really takes? Because what happens is, and I think somebody said it, they said, Dr. Boyce, you just make it look so easy. You make it look easy. And I said, maybe that's what I do. Maybe I make it look easy. I said, because it ain't easy. It's hard. And you have to be dedicated and you have to really be in it. You can't pretend, you can't fake it. And so she tried to do it. And I think she found out that it takes, like literally probably 30,000 hours of consistent labor. It takes, in many cases, millions of dollars, a lot of money. See, a lot of people don't understand that investing in what you're doing matters. I've made money. I've made millions of dollars in my life, but most of that money gets pumped right back into what I'm trying to do long term. My long term objective was, I said it back in 2007. I said, I want to change how Black people view wealth. I want Black people all around the world who want to listen, who want to do better, who want to break a generational curse. I want them to understand that economics is the key. Economics is the thing that's holding you back. The reason that white man got his foot on your neck is because you ain't got no damn money. You got to go work for him. Who the hell feels comfortable begging for a job from somebody who don't even like your Black ass? That is no fun. That is no fun. That's terrible. And who put you in that position? Who told you that was the way life was supposed to be? Give me a yes or no if you understand this by now. Please give me a yes or no in the chat if you're getting what I'm saying. I never understood that. I mean, when I really started thinking about it, and I think that because I ended up thinking about economics so deeply, I was like, why in the world would anybody in their right mind put their children in a position where you got to go beg the person who hates you the most for a damn job, for what you need to survive. You know, like imagine being in high school and having to go to your bully, your worst enemy, the girl who hates your guts, the one who's running around calling you a hoe and a slut, or the dude who beats you up and takes your lunch money, and getting on your knees and saying, "I don't have no money for food. Can you please feed me?" That's not going to end well for you. That's not going to end well for you. That's pimping and hoeing. You're going to get pimped. So I said, okay, I want black people to not get pimped. You know me, I use common language. I think pimping is a term we understand. And that is something that is exactly what's happening in America. And it ain't because you can't prevent it. It's a very preventable problem. It's a very solvable problem. The racial wealth gap is easily solvable for the most part, for most of you. I told you guys that you go to boycewatkins.com. That ebook I've been giving away. You can buy it on Amazon. If you want a hard copy, it's available for sale on Amazon. But if you don't want to buy it, you can have it for free. And it's that $5 a day thing. Any parent who does that for their child at the age of, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old is not going to have a child that's going to be stuck in any kind of economic problem, if assuming that they're responsible with the money that you give them. You're giving them a check for $100,000 or so. Well, by the time they're 20, 25 years old, they can go do whatever they want. They don't have to go beg nobody for no job. They don't have to be scared to go start their own business. They don't have to wait 20 years to buy a house. Think about it. Just you know, probably a couple $1 trillion. I'm gonna get back to Spotify and Joe Rogan in a minute, but y'all know me. I start with I'm black first. That's what I am. I'm a black man. I don't apologize for it. So if you're not black and you're looking for me to have a general conversation for everyone, you can take this and you can apply it. I mean, I taught white kids, for many years at Syracuse University, but I'm thinking about my community here. But think about this. Do you understand that you probably lose $2 or $3 trillion in wealth every generation just by the fact that you don't buy homes until you're like in your 40s or 50s? When you buy your first house at 45, that means you spent 25 years approximately paying rent for somebody else, paying rent to somebody else. And do you know the average rent in America is $1,800 approximately? The average home mortgage in America is $1,400. So renters are literally paying more in rent than the landlord is paying for the mortgage for that same property. Not only are you paying more in rent, so this is crazy, right? Because they'll be like, oh, well, we don't know if you can afford the mortgage payment. This is where the racism in the banking system comes into play. This is why when I talk to politicians, I don't really care about Black Lives Matter and all the other shit. I want to hear about the money. I want to hear you talking about giving access to capital to black folks. I want to hear about you telling me that ain't no black person anywhere going to be able to walk into a bank and not be able to get at least 150, 200 grand to go buy a house right now, because y'all proven you can afford a house. If you can afford to pay rent, you can afford to pay a mortgage. It's nonsense when they're like, oh, well, we don't know if you can afford the mortgage payment. Your risk is too high. That's BS. That's nonsense. But anyway, let's get back to it. So the thing is, you're paying more in rent than your landlord's paying in the mortgage. So it's clear, it's been proven that you can afford a house. But then here's the crazy part. Not only are you paying more than what he's paying, but you're buying the house for him. He's literally taking your rent money and he's flipping it into the mortgage. So he's like, here, hand me $1,800 and I'm gonna take the $1,800, pay my mortgage with the $1,800, and then I'm gonna have extra cash left over that I can invest in stocks or spend on or whatever I want. Take care of my children, not yours, not your children. To hell with your children. Black children don't matter. My children matter, right? That's what he's thinking. And then after you do that for 20 or 25 years, you have effectively paid off his entire mortgage. You have literally bought a house for another person. Don't you think that would impact black wealth if y'all out here buying houses for white folks and you ain't even bought one for yourself? So this is why B1 Black First is so important. It's like, buy a house for yourself first before you start buying houses for everybody else. You don't go to school and start passing your lunch money out to other kids before you ate. You don't sit around hungry and starve to death because you done fed every kid in the lunchroom except yourself. Feed yourself first. Then if you got some extra money, some extra food, then you can feed some other people if that's what you feel like doing. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, guys, let me jump back in. I start talking about Joe Rogan and Spotify. So I'm gonna do that deep dive on Spotify right now and just talk about whether or not I think Spotify is a good investment. It's a really interesting business story to kind of look at Spotify and their relationship with content creation, their relationship with the music industry, and also this Rogan scenario. I just felt like it was interesting to share what I read because I've spent about an hour reading about it last night. It was truly fascinating. So, by the way, if you're on Instagram, I'm about to shut off the Instagram in 1 second because I need to look at my phone, and you guys are on my phone. So if you want to join us, just click the link in the bio, look for the Black Financial Channel, come to the Black Financial Channel on YouTube. I'm also on Dr. Boyce TV. So any YouTube channel of mine, you can find me right there. Yeah, I am on YouTube. I simulcast. And or if you can go to theblackfinancialchannel.com. Okay, guys. All right. So I'm shutting off the Instagram now, and we're going to get started. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe, and also don't forget, if you go to boycewatkins.com, you still have time to join us. We're doing a new Black Wealth Bootcamp, and the Black Wealth Bootcamp is going to focus on how to generate consistent income for your family by selling stock options. Selling stock options is a big thing that a lot of people don't talk about, and because it's lower risk, it's not as exciting and flashy as buying options. But shoot, selling stock options has made me a ton of money, and I want to show you guys how to do it too. All right, guys, if you give me give me half a second because I got to put my phone on the charger. Or it's going to die. So hold on, hold your horses. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. I'm back. Thank you, Brian Bridges. I appreciate you, brother. I see you in the chat, and Lady Miz and everybody else, and Dilla degree. They also don't teach us that early enough in school. Yeah, that's a good point, Dilla. Because let me share this with you. Roosevelt Mitchell III made a good point the other day on Instagram. Everybody should follow Roosevelt. Roosevelt's a great guy. And he said that people always say, well, they don't teach us that in school. They don't teach us this in school. And one thing he said, he's a teacher. He said, it's not our job to teach you everything you need to know in life at school. That's what, parents can also teach things to their kids. And I agree. I said, yeah, if you're too busy watching reality TV and twerking and hanging out or whatever it is we do with our spare time to teach your kids, then ain't nobody gonna teach your kids because ain't nobody gonna love your kids the way you love your kids. So one thing that he said is that there's no reason why we can't teach some of these things at home. Remember, you have access to the internet. The internet gives you the ability to learn anything you want to learn. Why would you sit around and be like, well, my kids are stupid because white folks won't teach them how to be smart? That don't make no sense. So let's kill that. Let's get rid of that. Let's start talking about what we teach at home. So we're not learning. If our kids are not learning what they need to learn, then why don't we say we're not teaching that at home? How about that? And how about we point the finger at ourselves, right? And because remember, your survival is your responsibility. If your kids are laying out in the street, destitute, broke, your daughter's on the pole, your son's on the corner, ain't nobody gonna feel sorry for you, and ain't nobody gonna look and say, well, we gotta blame it on this person, blame it on that person. And even if they did, your daughter's still gonna be on the pole, your son's still gonna be on the corner. So you go snatch your kids off the corner. That's your job. Okay. All right. So let me hop in here. All right, so here's the deal with Spotify that's really interesting with Joe Rogan and all that. Joe Rogan, in case you don't know, how many of y'all know who Joe Rogan is? Give me a yes or no if you've even heard the name, if you have some familiarity with Rogan. Give me a yes or no in the chat. So Joe Rogan is it's a guy who is very big. He's got a great podcast. I don't watch it, but I've just seen, I've seen clips, and he's a former cage fighter or something like that, and he's smart. He got $100 million from Spotify. He's also fiercely independent. When he signed the deal, he would not sell his podcast. He only gave them exclusive rights, and he maintained creative control. So that's a guy who is very clear. He was very clear with Spotify about, you're not going to control me, right? But they wanted his massive audience because he's just built it up. His audience is mostly like young white men, angry young white men. But I think that there's some diversity in there. There's probably a lot of women in there as well. And I think the deal was great for Rogan. They paid him $100 million for his exclusive rights to his podcast. They didn't pay for the podcast. They paid for exclusive rights to the podcast. I think it's a great deal for him. I would have took it, but it's not. I don't think it's a good deal for Spotify. And the reason I say that is because when I looked at the numbers and I dug deeper into how Spotify makes their money, how the company's doing, what the future looks like for Spotify, I was not impressed. I have not yet gotten any indicator to say that signing these massive deals with people like Rogan has really paid off for them in terms of the bottom line. Spotify's main bread and butter for a long time was pretty much music, and it still is music. I think the bulk of their revenue comes from music streaming. The problem with music streaming is that record labels own everything. They own, I think they get 60-70% of the of the revenues or the royalties or whatever, something like that. And so the Spotify's beholden to the music industry. And so what they've done, it seems to me, is they've gone in this direction of original content creation to kind of say to the music industry, F you, we're going to build our audience and build our, and drive our revenue with stuff that we create, stuff that we own. And I've seen that before, where somebody didn't like the terms of a partnership and they say, I'm going to go off and create my own stuff so that I don't have to share that with anybody. Well, there's the upside of creating your own stuff is that it's your own stuff. The downside of creating your own stuff is that it's hard, it's expensive, and there's a lot of uncertainty involved. So keep that in mind. And I've seen that. I've seen people, who were in the midst of a really good partnership. Maybe it was 50-50, and they were making money hand over fist. And then they said, no, I want to have my own stuff. So they go and they will go and kill a great 50-50 deal to create their own stuff and end up losing money or not making any money at all. And what's interesting too, and I see this a lot online, where a lot of times people don't understand the value of a good partnership. I remember I had a partnership with somebody, and we were working together, and we were both doing well. We were both making money. And the person comes to me, they said, I want to create my own stuff, Dr. Boyce. I appreciate what you've done for me, but I want to create my own. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. Go create your own. I think that's good. Everybody should have something of their own. And I think the person felt like creating their own meant not partnering with other people. So they were like, I have to end the partnership because I got to create my own. And I was like, well, I don't get it. I don't understand why, because I have my own. I have stuff over here that's not yours, but I also have the partnership. You understand? Like I have a partnership with Push Black. Push Black is a very nice platform, and I wanted to do a podcast with them. They invited me to do one. I was happy to do it, and they don't even pay me. I was like, I just want a chance to engage with your audience, and I didn't feel that signing a deal with Push Black meant that I wasn't able to keep doing everything else that I'm doing. Right. So I really encourage you, when you're thinking about your business partnerships, don't just think of it as all or nothing. I know we have this independent streak. I know we want to be free, and I get all that, but you can be free and still have relationships at the same time. Like my wife and I are partners, but we got our own stuff too. I got plenty of stuff that's mine that I control, and she's got stuff that's hers that she controls. We don't look at each other and say, well, if I partner with you, that means I can't be independent. That's just not true. Don't think that way. So anyway, with Spotify, they wanted to get independent of the record labels. So they went and they said, okay, we're going to create this original content. Nobody else owns it. This is going to be our thing. And record labels, screw you. Well, from what I understand, the problem with that, with the sign, so they went out and they spent all this money. They signed the Rogans and the Obamas and all these other celebrities. And the problem was that it wasn't generating the kind of revenue that they really needed. I saw the number 2%. I got to go double check that. I was like, no, there's no way their podcast revenue is only 2% of their total revenue. But if that's the case, then I don't see how you could justify those massive expenditures on all this expensive talent. I think also the spending occurred during a time where cash was very cheap. It was very cheap to get financing for massive expansions, and I think it was also in the middle of this what they call gold rush, this content gold rush that took place, where all these platforms, Netflix, Apple, Disney, are all going to Amazon, are spending billions and billions of dollars acquiring content. Now, this is really good for the content creators for sure, but it's not so good for the companies. And a lot of companies are paying a price for that. All these companies now that were spending insane amounts of money on content are rolling that back. All of them. Their language has completely shifted. Netflix is now looking like a sucker right now because I think that their stock. Has anybody seen Netflix stock? Has anybody seen? Give me a yes or no if you've noticed how Netflix stock. I'm gonna pull Netflix stock up on the screen so we can kind of see it. But Netflix stock has been getting absolutely pummeled. If I show you Netflix stock over the last year, it looks a lot like Spotify. So let me see if I can pull it up for you guys so you can just take a look at it. So look at Netflix stock. Netflix stock has gotten hammered. It's dropped by about, I think Spotify dropped 66, about 63 or 64% in the last year, if I'm not mistaken. Netflix dropped by 66.7%. Now, if you were to do a comparison, you might look at, say, the S&P 500. So let me see here. Let me see what the S&P 500 has done over the past year. The S&P 500 over the past year. Okay. Look, interesting. Look at this. Look at this. Okay. So keep that number in your head. Remember, Spotify and Netflix about 60, between 63 and 66% decline in the last year. Look at the whole S&P 500. This is the top 500 companies in America. Only 11.9%. 11.9%. So these companies, and partly because they're tech companies that had massive valuations that were built on the expectation of future revenue growth because of all the major investments they were making, these companies got hammered extra hard. And the first temptation is to say, wow, it dropped 66%. What a great bargain. Not so fast. Not so fast. Remember, these valuations, these insane, sick, ridiculous, insane valuations occurred in the middle of a time where capital was incredibly cheap, meaning that the Federal Reserve had increased the money supply so much that anybody can go out and borrow $1 billion and start making a bunch of acquisitions. And these what they call multiples, the stock prices were getting blown up like a balloon. So this idea, if you believe that Netflix is going to go back to $700 a share anytime soon, I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn because because you're fooling yourself. That is not going to occur. Some of these companies will never get back the valuations that they had before, or if they do, it might be like 15, 20 years. Okay, so Spotify was overvalued in my view. Netflix was overvalued in my view. But does that mean that it's a bad investment or a good investment now? Well, the jury's still out. Let's talk a little bit more about Spotify's business model. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And also I'd be remiss not to tell you guys that if you are trying to prepare your kids for the future, we actually have some financial workbooks for kids that you can feel free to take a look at. And we created them for kids in our community. And they were done by Black experts, a team of experts we hired. And you can go take a look at financialworkbooks.com. They cover stocks, they cover money, they also cover investing. And we also have some programs in real estate and everything else. So feel free to go to financialworkbooks.com. And I think that's really important for you because we shouldn't have kids that are 14 years old that know more about sports than they know about money and economics. Because when that child is 30, which is not that far down the road, just 16 years, they're not going to be playing sports to feed their kids. They're going to be, they're going to need money to do it. So in the sport of money, you got to make sure your child is every bit as good with the sport of money as they are with the sport of football or the sport of basketball or with dance competitions and all that. Nothing wrong with football, basketball, and dance competitions. My daughter was in a dance competition this weekend, but I'm going to make sure that she's not just a superstar on the dance floor. She's going to be a superstar in the game of economic warfare. Okay, so feel free to go to financialworkbooks.com if you'd like to take a look at the workbooks. All right, so here's what the bulls are saying about Spotify stock, and these are the bulls of the people that really like the company. They said revenue growth during the next 10 years should accelerate as Spotify keeps investing in different content such as podcasts and video, attracting more users and advertisers. By investing in more services and tools for artists, Spotify may attract artists away from record labels and toward independent distribution, which may allow the company to pay lower royalties over time. Spotify's listener growth may help it negotiate much better terms with record labels over time. Those are actually compelling arguments. Those are very good, compelling arguments. I like it's feasible, right? Spotify is trying to do what YouTube is doing. They're inviting all kinds of people, even people that don't have direct deals with them. Like myself, I have, if you go to Spotify and look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown, that's the audio version of my podcast. Every podcast I do, like this one, I take the audio and I put it up on this app called Anchor, and it goes into Spotify. So I am on Spotify. You can look me up, but I don't have a Joe Rogan deal. Maybe they should write me a check because I got a big audience, but I don't really care. We find other ways to generate the revenue that we need. But the other thing that they're mentioning here is that they're investing in more services and tools for artists. So they're thinking that they can actually pull artists away from the recording industry. I don't think. Now let's see here. RJ, okay, wait, scratch that. Give me 1 second. RJ says, I purchase books never. No, buddy. You're not gonna put that on us. No. Let's see. I see somebody says they love the workbooks. Yes, I appreciate that those kind words, Lady Miss. Thank you. But RJ, let me address your comment directly, RJ. We have an excellent support team at support@theblackbusinessschool.com. I'm gonna put this on the screen. If you ever have any issue with anything, don't be out here. You put respect on our name because we do a very good job of giving exceptional customer service in the Black Business School. We spend millions of dollars making sure that everybody gets what they pay for and that everybody's happy. So if you have any issues at all, you email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Sorry, oops, I typed it in there wrong. My apologies. Let me retype it. Support@theblackbusinessschool.com, and they will take good care of you. So no, that I know some people will say bad things because I know some people hate Black businesses and they think that every Black business is out here trying to just get one over on them, and and it's kind of confusing because they'll go spend a ton of money with white folks, but no, you're not doing that with our business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the email address that you can email. And if you ever have any questions or any issues at all with anything that you ever decide to invest in with us, just email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. They're sitting right there right now waiting for you to reach out to them. So RJ, if you had an issue and you didn't email them, I want you to email them now and tell them your situation. They will look up your account and they will make sure you're taken care of. Okay. So no, we're not doing that today. All right. So anyway, let's get back to Spotify. All right. So Spotify basically has a lot of reasons why you can expect they might actually grow in value. You also have so artists. I think artists are moving away from signing record deals. Like D1, who's a great artist who's actually been on this platform. He actually explains why he was offered record deals with like Cash Money Records with Lil Wayne's group, stuff like that. He turned those down. He likes being independent. You say, well, why would you want to be independent? Well, the reason artists want to be independent is because when you're independent, you're free. You can kind of do whatever you want creatively. He knows you have more flexible ways to make money. And so D1 remains independent because he knows how to monetize his brand better than a record label can. Getting a record deal is not that much fun, like people say that it is. I've seen a lot of people get record deals, recording deals, and be very upset about the terms of the deal. They can't do whatever they want. They're not getting support from the label. And so D1 has sort of chronicled that journey. So I can see a lot of artists taking that same route, and I get that. But the question to me would become whether or not that's going to be enough, right? So these homegrown artists that aren't getting support of record labels, are they going to get you enough traffic and volume and all that to generate the royalties or generate the ad revenue that's going to really move the needle to Spotify? And they also said that their listener growth can help them negotiate better deals with the record labels over time. I can see that too. All right, so here's what the bears say about Spotify. These are the people that don't believe in Spotify. They said Spotify will remain at the mercy of record labels, which can potentially raise royalties owed by Spotify at any time. So record labels at any time could come in and just jack up Spotify and say, look, if you don't pay us more money, we're not going to give you the music that you need in order to survive. That's a scary place to be. Two, I think Netflix used to be in that position until Netflix started making original content because they had everything that they used. It was licensed. So big companies started taking their content away. They stopped giving them the licenses to use the content. Content acquisition costs make Spotify's overall cost of revenue variable, which will prevent significant gross margin expansion. So they're referring to content acquisition costs. They don't know what they're going to be. It's kind of what they call a variable cost, which means it goes up and down. They also said Apple, Google, and Amazon can allocate more capital toward their music streaming offerings and potentially take users from Spotify. I think that's good, but I actually believe the bull case a little bit better than the bear case because I feel like I feel like the Bears didn't. The bear argument isn't as strong as I'd like for it to be. Now the company, they are profitable now, and basically the Spotify. In case you didn't know, it's a Swedish-based company. It's the world's leading music streaming service provider. According to this thesis that I'm reading here, actually right here in Robinhood, if you want to read the research reports, we foresee the fast-growing digital streaming spaces becoming the primary distribution platform of choice within the ever-changing music industry. We believe Spotify can benefit from various network effects that will help the firm increase its users and amass valuable intangible assets associated with user data and listening preferences. However, it faces intense competition and has a mostly variable cost structure that may limit Spotify's future operating leverage and profitability. Thus, we do not have sufficient confidence that it will generate excess returns on capital over the next 10 years. What does that mean? Basically, they're saying, we don't really recommend you buy Spotify. They're basically saying, when they talk about return on capital, what they're basically saying is that the amount of money you invest in Spotify is probably not going to really come back to you in a way that sufficiently compensates you for the risk that you're taking with Spotify. So this is their first part of the thesis here. This is from Morningstar. This is the Morningstar report. While the distribution side of the industry, Spotify, YouTube, Apple, terrestrial and digital radio, and so on, is fragmented, over 80% of licensing is controlled by the big three major record labels, Universal Music, Sony, and Warner Music Group. As these licensors gather royalties from Spotify and its peers, they maintain pricing leverage as content remains king. We applaud the firm's entry into the podcast space. However, while the firm has become the market leader via content acquisition, which further diversifies its revenue, we do not expect its dependency on labels to be lessened much. So they're saying, look, despite the fact that you're kind of doing stuff on your own, despite the fact that you're getting this content acquisition, they're not seeing evidence that this is actually going to really pay off and reduce their dependence on the record labels. Spotify is ahead of the pack in the growing music streaming and podcast markets, but it faces stiff competition from behemoths such as Amazon, Apple, and Google. Unlike Spotify, these firms don't rely solely on streaming music or podcasts to drive profitability and can potentially run at break even or even as loss leaders while monetizing users via other products and services. So what they're saying is that the advantage that an Apple and a Google have over Spotify is that Apple can come in and say, look, this ain't even our main gig. We can lose money just to ruin you. Spotify can't really lose money forever, right? They have to make a profit on podcasts and music. They have to. Apple says, we could actually lose money on podcasts and all that other crap just to destroy you, right? We can just throw salt in your game. You know, like I can get you to break up your boyfriend, even though I don't actually plan to marry you, right? That's kind of the analogy there, right? And they said, so let's see. Let me keep reading here. Unlike Spotify, these firms don't rely on streaming music or podcasts to drive profitability, blah, blah, blah. It might also be harder for Spotify to steal market share from these competitors over time, as Apple Music and Apple Podcast listeners are probably entrenched with other Apple products, Amazon Music with Echo, and so on. Thus, they might be relatively more loyal to these music and podcast platforms than the users on users and operating system agnostic platform like Spotify can capture. Okay, so the fair value of the company, though, then pay attention. This is where I would say Spotify might be a decent stock to buy. Let me explain why. Let me double check this. Spotify stock. Here's what they said is the fair value of Spotify stock. They said our fair value estimate is $195 per share. Based on the euro exchange rate, this implies a 2022 enterprise sales multiple of 3. We project strong top-line growth for Spotify at a 5-year rate of 19%. We expect the firm to improve its operating margins, blah, 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 blah. So let's see. Spotify must pay record labels and publishers a royalty for the content streamed to its users. Part of the gross margin expansion that we have modeled does come from the premium side. However, it assumes premium ARPUs, adjusted, right? I gotta Google ARPU. I don't use that term, so give me 1 second, guys. Per user? Let me see, ARPU. Average revenue per user. There we go. So they see adjusted average revenue per user. Premium average revenue per users are more likely to approach the firm's standard subscription price per month. We also think that ad revenue growth driven by more ads placed on podcast platforms and overall user growth can expand gross margins. Okay, so here's a piece. This is a little piece of chicken that you can chew on if you want to just walk away from the conversation right now. It's totally okay. So if you want to know the answer as to whether or not Morningstar is saying you should buy Spotify stock or not, the answer is yes. They're saying that the true value is $195. The market value right now is $97.99. So they're making the argument that in the next, year or two, maybe 3 years or more, that Spotify stock is going to double in price. And that's not inconceivable. It's not inconceivable because right now, if you're buying in the stock market, you're kind of buying into the market at like the darkest time imaginable. Like right now, it's just like everything's bad news everywhere, blah, blah, right? So when the sun comes out, and there's a little bit of good news, Vladimir Putin says we might end the war. We're thinking about it. Boom, stock price takes off. China says, we're going to shut down. We're going to end these lockdowns. We're done with these COVID lockdowns. Stock price shoots up. The Fed says, inflation has peaked. It's not going down, but it's peaked. It's hit 8%, and now it went down to 7.5%. The stock market takes off, right? So basically, any little bit of good news is going to open up an avalanche of possibility, I think, in this market, which means companies like Spotify, these tech companies, they tend to get hit the hardest when that occurs. They have these are what you call in economics, we call these long duration companies, meaning that their revenue streams, their big days, their best days are way ahead of them. So what happens is these companies sling around like a seesaw. Like they get, when the market moves a little, they move a lot. Okay, or what you might also call high beta stocks. So Spotify would probably be one of the first beneficiaries of good economic news, particularly on the inflation front. And so what Morningstar is basically saying is we believe the stock is worth $195. That's a compelling reason to consider buying. I'm not telling you to buy. This is not investment advice, but if you bought it, I wouldn't call you stupid. All right. So they mentioned the economic moat. Now, the economic moat is the thing that separates you from the competition, anything that blocks or protects you from anybody that can come in and just take your territory. And they said we consider Spotify a no moat company, meaning they have no moat. There's no barrier to entry. Anybody can jump in and compete. While we foresee several potential moat sources for Spotify, we don't have tremendous confidence that any of these characteristics will enable the company to generate excess returns on capital today. Ultimately, we do think the firm can effectively monetize its listeners and the content it provides. In fact, based on user and revenue growth, we model a 20% revenue compound annual growth rate for the firm through 2021. Okay, so this must be an old report. Let me look at the date on this. Okay, well, I can't find the date. So obviously it was written, either during 2021 or before. The firm benefits from a platform network effect. So they have a lot of subscribers and they have what you call network effects, which means that they can do things at scale that other companies can't do. The firm has aggressively expanded its content library, which allowed it to attract users to the platform. In turn, Spotify's strong user growth has attracted more artists from both major labels and independent ones. We think this flywheel effect will continue as more users attract more artists and labels, which attract even more users and so on. Now, one of the things that's interesting to me is when they're sort of figuring out the revenue growth for Spotify, I don't know if this report factors in the Joe Rogan effect. I think that companies don't want to market on a platform that allows somebody like a Joe Rogan to just say whatever he wants. I like Joe Rogan. I think that it's fine that he says whatever he says. I like him more than I dislike him, but I don't love him enough to listen. I don't listen to his podcast at all. But then again, I don't listen to hardly anything. I listen to podcasts that make me smarter. I don't feel like that show would make me smarter. I don't need to listen to a podcast to be entertained. I listen to stuff that's gonna give me more information, that's gonna make me a smarter black man. I'm sorry. I'm black out here. I gotta be ready, right? So Rogan is a guy that probably throws. I don't think he's worth $100 million because he's not corporate safe. If you have a company like Disney or something, or General Mills that's thinking about running ads on your platform, and they might appear on a Joe Rogan show, they're gonna stop that. They're not gonna let that happen. And so they don't care how big the audience is. So I wonder if that's gonna hurt their ability to generate the ad revenue. Now, the big question will be, can Rogan get them enough paid subscribers to make it worth their while? Because think about it. How else are you going to make your money from him? You either make it from the ad revenue or you make it by getting more paid subscribers. I haven't seen evidence to say that the Rogan effect has generated enough paid users on Spotify, maybe people who will listen for free or whatever. But I don't really see enough evidence to say that that's going to move the needle enough to be worth the money they're spending. And it's not just Rogan. It's really, I remember I read a Bloomberg article about Spotify. I'm actually trying to pull this up. And they basically kind of gave the impression that Spotify's content acquisition process was a complete shit show. They kind of gave the impression that Spotify was just going out, making it rain like a rapper in the club and buying up all this content from all these people and getting damn near nothing for it. Like even with the Obamas, they almost described the acquisition of Michelle Obama's podcast as a failed business move. That literally what they got for what they paid for was almost nothing. And so a lot of people are leaving. The company's in a lot of turmoil. So I really think that they don't really have their stuff together. They don't know exactly who they are. Also, I read something as well in Bloomberg that basically said Spotify is now throwing. I think a guy described it as throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. And so one of the things that they're trying to do is they've opened up this door so that any regular Joe Blows can have podcasts on the Spotify platform, which they're hoping long-term will turn into a viable business model. I don't think at this point that it has. So let's see here. You listen to Joe Rogan, especially when he has prominent guests. Okay. Yeah, I'm not saying Rogan's bad. I think that he's obviously very good because, I mean, my Lord, this man has really acquired a massive audience and he's probably more interesting than a guy like me. But at the same time, I don't really know. I mean, I don't know. You bring together a bunch of angry white men and you have this outrageous podcast where you kind of say whatever you want. And if you remember, they had that weird controversy where he kept saying the N word over and over and over again, which definitely turned off a lot of black people. I don't really know if that's where I would spend $100 million. I might spend 40 million or something, but I don't think I would have spent 100 million. And I would have probably found somebody who could be edgy and interesting, but still be relatively safe, corporate friendly. Somebody I could take to major corporations and say, we got this guy. And get them to buy ads. So I can't find this Bloomberg article, but I've already said enough about Spotify. So I think the verdict, though, is that Spotify might be a good investment. Right now in this environment, it could be good. They mentioned the enterprise value as being $195. So if you take that and you cut it by say 30 or 40%, you're still talking about 130, 140. So I would actually make that investment. In fact, I think I will. I'm going to add some Spotify to my portfolio. So I'm not telling you what to do. I am saying that's what I'm going to do. All right. So anyway, guys, by the way, we have a stock market investing class. We meet every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. You're able to send me your investing questions. I will look up your stocks for you. I will answer questions for you, whatever it is you want. And so if you're interested in joining, just go to boycewatkins.com and look for my stock market investment program. And don't forget also on July 7th, we're doing a 4-week Black Wealth Bootcamp. So for 4 weeks, I'm going to show you how I generate income by selling stock options, how I pick the stocks, how I manage the risk of the stocks, how I reverse and repair as things go, as market conditions change. And so if you're interested in that kind of thing and you want to find another source of income, particularly in a bad market, this might be for you. So feel free to go to boycewatkins.com and I'll scroll down and you can find it there as well. All right, guys, well, I'm out of here. If you could hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And also I'll be back with you guys a little bit later. If you like these kinds of deep dives, I'll ask you guys I'll do polls in the community page to see how you feel about the deep dives versus the shorter stuff. And in that way we can create content that will be of interest to you. So take care, guys. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.